Hi everyone, it's the Animation Fanatic. So yeah, I know I promised you a review of The Hunger Games Mockingjay, and I'm a few weeks late with that. And I'll also do a review of The Hobbit: Battle of the Five Armies, since I was lucky enough to be able to see both films in theaters actually within a day of each other. So let's get into this. This review is going to have spoilers. I'm going to talk about a lot of things. So if you haven't seen the movie, you might want to before you watch this review. However, I will say, before I go any further, that I enjoyed the film. I do not think it was as good as the second film. Do I think it was about on par with the first film? Yeah, maybe more or less. It was an interesting film with the plot. The plot is a little bit strange and disjointed. It's almost a series. It's almost less a cohesive film than a series of vignettes or a series of short stories that sort of are bonded together by the same characters and same kind of issues. But it's a very good film that and we focus mostly on Katniss as well as the rebellion going on in different places. And it very effective. And there's not a ton of action. There is some action, but a lot of this film is dialogue and character emotions, which is done very well. Jennifer Lawrence captures Katniss's damaged state very nicely while weeding out a lot of the obnoxiousness. The writers did a great job weeding out a lot of the obnoxiousness from the third book, because there is a lot of obnoxiousness in the third book. Everybody does a great job. Everyone's character is sympathetic, and you understand what they're going through. The portrayal of District 13, is very interesting. Well, they do a good job with 13. Wish they'd talked about a few more things. Well, locations of everybody, but anyway, it's interesting the way they do it. There's actually even one scene where there's a battle, and a lot of it is being told to us. But like I said, this is a very effective movie, especially an effective movie for a lot of dialogue and a lot of discussion and maneuvering rather than actual fighting. So if you wanted a testosterone fest, this is probably not going to be your thing. But if you are interested in the story, you want to continue to see where everything is going, of course you're going to want to see this movie. But like I said, it's a movie that focuses on its characters, their emotional reactions, and basically what they're going through in the aftermath of the 75th annual Hunger Games, and it does a very effective job at that. And I think as a single movie, it doesn't leave actually too much of a cliffhanger like the last film. It ends and it wraps up pretty nicely. But yeah, you're still going to want to tune in for that. Like I said, this focuses mostly on 13 and what's going on there with Katniss and company. But you do see a little bit of President Snow and the other people. And like I said, a lot of what was bad from the book is weeded out. Now, on to spoilers. I've said a lot of what I was already going to say. Like I said, a lot of this movie is, if you've seen the movie, a lot of it is sort of disjointed. And it's sort of weird. I don't know. I enjoyed it, but it was just kind of odd. I was telling my mom, I was saying to her, if I went to you and I said, because she saw the movie with me, and if I said to her, this is what the movie's about, this happens, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens, she'd probably say to me, that's a lot, that sounds really convoluted. But it's not. It actually keeps its flow, but it does seem like it's a series of being different little stories that happen to have the same characters. There's a lot of things going on, whether it's going to District 8 into the fighting, or dealing with PETA being captured, or even just looking at how the rebellion is going. Now, the scenes with the rebels were actually very interesting, very well done. Nice continuation from previous previous bleeding on set previous films. It's a nice continuation for previous films. My only problem was a lot of these terrorist activities, while effective, don't seem entirely smart. I mean, they get themselves killed pretty easily. I mean, they're running at the peacekeepers with their without any weapons, and then they get in there, and it's at least the people in District what is it, 7 is lumber, I think. Yeah, they at least had bombs on the ground, and they climbed up the trees, which was interesting. Number 2, it was cool to see the rebellion in various districts, although we didn't get quite a message of how many districts have risen up, and We had a little bit of a talk about District 2, but I'm guessing we'll see and hear more about that in the next movie. But what was interesting was not really a complaint, just an interesting note is that how come sci-fi movies or programs that want to have like lots of soldiers, how come people like to do the stormtrooper designs? It's just so funny how the peacekeepers. I still think it's funny how the peacekeepers got retconned a bit to have the stormtrooper helmet, like type helmet, stormtrooper type outfit. You know, it's very stormtrooper like. But anyway, like I said, despite its vignette nature, it does a good job. The character I'm most impressed with, actually, that it did a better job in the film than in the book, and I do think this film is actually better than the book. I like Mockingjay. I don't mind Mockingjay. A lot of people are like, oh no, Mockingjay. I actually like Mockingjay, but I like it more for its end. And even though there is something in the end that I don't like, I like it actually more for its ending and sort of the it's less of a twist, just sort of the interesting way that it wraps up that I enjoy. There's no happy ending kind of end, similar to what, if you've read Gregor the Overlander, yeah, you'll know Suzanne Collins does. But anyway, I was impressed with what they did with Haymitch in this. In the book, he really grated on my nerves. I really didn't care much for his character and for his relationship with Katniss. But here, it actually got better. You know, they moved away from, they're butting heads all the time. They moved away from that and moved toward more of a relationship of, I guess you could say, love and understanding, because they are both people who competed in the games. And we see a little bit of a separation, a split in the movie of when Katniss talks about Peeta having to do what he has to survive, and Gale saying, no, I wouldn't do that even if I were captured. But Katniss understands more because she was in the games. And that's really interesting. They cut out a lot with the cat. Yeah, they showed it playing with the light a little bit, but they didn't make it a big deal. Like, oh, give the cat its specific rations and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, they didn't do that with the cat. They didn't with 13, there were certain things that I liked, certain things that I didn't. They sort of did the whole, in the book they call everyone soldier. Everyone's called soldier in 13. 13 is very militarized, which they do state, and they do show that 13 has a lot of weapons, and of course that they live underground and all wear the same clothing, more or less. Actually, it was funny, at the beginning you see that Prim and her mother are wearing different outfits than everybody else. And if you haven't read the books, you might wonder, well, what makes them so special? But yeah, it's because they work in the hospital, and they explain that later. But you might wonder, why is Prim so special? What does she do to deserve the non-completely gray outfit? What does Finnick do to deserve that either? I don't know. Finnick's like wearing white through some of the movie, but anyway, it's they kind of left out the part where they mention nuclear weapons, but they left out the part that's what 13 used to manufacture. They used to manufacture nuclear weapons, and they have nuclear weapons, and the Capitol does too, but they won't fire them at each other. They will, however, bomb the crap out of each other, which I loved the bombing scene. It was very intense. It kind of gets you up at the edge of your seat, even though, having read the books, I know what's going to happen. It was very intense. It was very cool how they didn't show any of the firing or fighting above. They just did it. It was just done all with dialogue. But the tension, the claustrophobia that Plutarch feels, it was done very effectively. I liked how the District 13, kind of maybe a little bit odd, but I liked how they did the whole hoorah, hoorah thing. Although that's, make of that what you will. Anyway, what else can I say about this film? Like some people, I know this film hasn't made quite as much money as the other ones, and I thought I heard something about people being disappointed because it didn't have as much action. But the action is not really the point. There is action in here, but it is mostly about the characters' emotions and how they're reacting to the different situations they're put in, which there is a series of different situations. But like I said, it's like a series of short stories. The characters have a reaction. Move on to the next story. And it does it, I think, very effectively. Although I would have liked some explanation as to why there are so few people on Earth. I would like to know more about the background of Pan Am and how it came to be and a lot of the origins and different things. Yeah, Finnick's part was really cool where he talked about the whole sex slave trade amongst from the tributes. That was yeah, that was great. What else to say? Left us with a very effective ending, making us interested and willing to come back for the next part. Why is Joanna bald? Just saying. Why? But yeah, if I'll be interested to see how Katniss and Peeta deal with this new challenge to their relationship, and what's going to happen with Gale. Oh, who gets actually more character time in this movie and does a lot of pretty cool things in this one. A lot of talking and a lot of talking. Yeah. Just one more thing. I would like to mention though that if you're disappointed with I wanted more action, just remember the first Hunger Games, for all the action and violence that it did have in it, the first third of the movie, or like the first quarter of it, is mostly talking and prepping for the games, and then you go in there and then it's fighting, interrupted briefly by talking. Again, Catching Fire, mostly talking half of the movie, and then the games, and again, both parts briefly punctuated by the other. Just want you to keep that in mind. But anyway, that's about all I can say. If you stuck with me and watched this review, go ahead and see the movie. I highly recommend it, and I'm very excited for the last part next year. I can't wait. Oh, and just one more thing. I was about to say, oh, sad, because that'll be the end of it. I think it's coming out next year. Maybe I don't know. But technically, you know, the director said, "Ooh, would I do another story set in this world?" That could be potentially interesting. So let's keep our eyes out. Keep our eyes out. Keep our ears out. If there's enough interest in it, you know, turn up, show up, populate. If you want to see more of this, I don't know. It could be interesting to see a prologue or something else taking place in the world of Pan Am. So yeah, keep going to the theater.